Intelligent, attractive, and popular. 23-year-old Tara Louise Baker was a much-admired student at the University of Georgia Law School. But on January 19, 2001, just one day before her 24th birthday, Tara was discovered dead in the bedroom of her off-campus apartment at Athens, Georgia, while her house went up in flames. Detectives quickly ruled it as arson, and evidence indicated she had died hours before the fire began. Friends said they left her at the library the previous night. So what happened between that time and mid-morning the next day? Despite a detailed investigation, there were no leads, no clues, and no suspects. The case grew cold, even as students on the campus lived in fear of an unknown killer roaming free. Nearly 2.5 decades later, in 2024, detectives were finally able to piece the clues together and make an arrest. Who killed Tara Baker? Why did they do it? Will the forever 23-year-old finally get justice? Tara Louise Baker, fondly called Tara by family and friends, was born on January 20th, 1977, to parents Virginia and Lindsay Baker. She was from East Point in Fulton County, Georgia. She was the eldest child in the family and had two brothers, Adam and Kevin, as well as a sister, Meredith. After graduating Lovejoy High School in 1995, she went on to attend Georgia College in Milledgeville, where she graduated cum laude in 1998 with 2 bachelor's degrees in political science and paralegal studies. Tara was part of the Alpha Delta Pi sorority while in college and had interned with Forest Park attorney Jack Hancock. With big dreams of becoming a prosecutor or a judge, Tara moved to Athens in 1999 after getting accepted to study law at the University of Georgia. She also worked part-time in a local law firm called Fortson and Bentley. At school, Tara was known for trying to make the university experience better for everyone. She was quick to offer help, so no one felt left behind in class projects or study groups. To her family and friends, she was an adoring person who was truly dedicated to ensuring justice and fairness in the world. And so her tragic fate, mired in injustice and unfairness, came as an unbearable blow to her loved ones. In the early hours of January 19, 2001, the people of Athens, Clark County, woke up to a fire in the house located at 160 Fawn Drive in the Deer Park subdivision off Lexington Road. Neighbors quickly called 911, but by the time firefighters arrived at 11:20 a.m., heavy smoke and flames were billowing out of the apartment. After kicking in the front door and entering the building, the first thing the firefighters noticed was that all 4 burners in the kitchen were turned on. The bedroom door was locked, but they managed to open it only to see a room absolutely gutted by the fire. They worked quickly to put out the flames, but by then it was too late. First-year law student at the University of Georgia, Tara Louise Baker was lying dead on the bedroom floor of her off-campus home, her body nearly mutilated by the fire exactly one day before her 24th birthday. Detectives and police came afterwards to investigate, cordoning off the home as a crime scene. They revealed that the fire was a deliberate act of arson intended to end Tara's life and destroy critical evidence. Her distraught friends told police they had last seen her the previous night at the UGA Law School library around 7:30 p.m. They had left before her at around 9:46 p.m. She had called to ensure they got back home safely. Tara herself planned to leave the library around 10 p.m., and that was the last time they had heard from her. So what happened? From the autopsy conducted on Tara's body, it was discovered that she was killed between 9:45 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. on January 18, 2001, long before the fire had begun. According to the coroner, Tara had struggled and put up a fight before her death. It was further revealed that she had been strangled and stabbed in the neck with a knife with a 3-inch long blade, after which she was struck in the head with a blunt object. There were no signs of forced entry in her home, and as there was only a laptop computer missing, police ruled out burglary as a motive. Additional investigations revealed that Tara had been assaulted, which probably explained why the attacker had tried to hide her body by setting her house on fire. An open window in the kitchen led police to believe the murderer had escaped that way. Because of the extent of the fire, detectives were unable to gather much evidence from the scene that hadn't already been burned off or heavily damaged. However, her boyfriend of several years, Chris, was initially considered a suspect, especially due to the injuries at the back of his hands. He maintained he had punched a wall out of grief and was eventually cleared after his alibi checked out and he passed a polygraph test. Still, friends of Tara held opposing beliefs about her relationship with Chris. Some felt their relationship had issues, while others maintained they were serious and had talked about marriage and family. Tara's housemates, who were both out of town at the time of the attack and arson, were also interviewed, but their statements checked out. There was also a classmate who was rumored to be in love with Tara, but his affection wasn't reciprocated as Tara saw him as a creep. A report of a bloodstain on this classmate's book led to a search of his apartment, but nothing incriminating was found. Other classmates were interviewed, but they were also cleared. People reported having seen a black male standing near the driveway of Tara's home on the day of the fire. He did not appear to live in the area, and police suspected he was a locally known criminal. But the lead went nowhere. Someone also described seeing a white male dressed in a t-shirt and jeans running from Tara's backyard at around 7 a.m. that fateful morning, but could offer no more descriptions. Neighbors and friends couldn't picture anyone who held a grudge against Tara. She was loved by everyone on campus and at home. As months passed without progress, students at the campus started to grow weary and impatient. But it was her family that struggled the most to cope with their sudden loss. They spent the next holiday season without her, and were heartbroken at the lack of new developments in the murder case. A memorial was organized by some of the students at the University of Georgia, where they finally remembered her and talked about what she had done for them. 2 decades later, in 2021, creator and host Cameron J. developed a very detailed podcast to discuss Tara's murder. The entire Baker family, especially her mother, sisters, and brothers, were grateful for the renewed attention to her case, especially as the police had failed to give them updates over the years. They actively participated in the podcast, answering questions and begging the public for answers. This new attention provided a lot of new tips and information, and a $27,000 reward was offered to anyone who had substantial leads on the case. But the continued lack of evidence, plus the lack of worthwhile suspects and motive, quickly caused the case to grow cold again. Until 2023. On May 9, 2024, the Athens-Clarke County Police Department, ACCPD, and the Cold Case Unit at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, made a surprise joint announcement. Someone had been arrested for Tara's murder. The new Cold Case Unit was established under the Georgia Coleman-Baker Act, passed in 2023.
For the families of 2 young women killed decades ago, both families telling me that this new law not only adds to their loved one's legacy, but it will help countless other families.
It is made up of experienced special agents who have demonstrated proficiency in solving complex death investigations through the use of forensic science, case file analysis, and cutthroat technology. The Coleman-Baker Act was named to honor Tara Louise Baker and 18-year-old high school student Rhonda Sue Coleman, who was killed in Jeff Davis County, Georgia in 1990. This same act brought about the laws and reviews that eventually helped solve Tara's murder. According to officials, the Cold Case Unit and the ACCPD partnered up in September of 2023 to review the biological evidence left behind in the crime scene. They additionally used DNA science and new technology to generate leads, eventually unmasking the killer. So who was Tara's ruthless attacker? Edric Lamont Faust, a 48-year-old man residing in Athens, Georgia, was arrested and charged with multiple offenses, including murder, arson, tampering of evidence, aggravated sodomy, and assault in connection to Tara's death. There were no prior connections between Faust and Tara, so the police couldn't identify any specific or personal reason behind the murder. Faust has had lots of arrests in Athens, Clark County. According to records, he was arrested barely a month after Tara's murder for cutting someone's neck during an aggravated assault.
Dozens of arrests documented in Athens, Clark County. According to court records, less than a month after Tara was killed in 2001, Faust was arrested and pleaded guilty to aggravated assault for cutting someone's neck. Faust's arrest comes just months after the GBI partnered with Athens Clark County Police to review Tara's case in September of last year.
He has also been incarcerated a number of times, with the latest sentence spanning from May of 2001 to May of 2003. He has an unsettling history of arrests and probation violations, including charges of simple battery, disorderly conduct, and criminal trespass. At the time of his arrest in the Athens Clark County Jail, Faust was placed on a bond of $15,000 while awaiting an attorney to defend his case. After 2.5 decades, Tara's killer has finally been caught, providing relief to everyone who knew and loved her. Tara Louise Baker was a hardworking student with a bright future ahead of her. Chris Hosey, the director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, said, "Her life was stolen from her in a horrific act of violence." Jerry Salters, who was an officer on the case in 2001 and is now currently the Athens Clark County Police Chief, said that he was very happy the case was now solved, because he had been hoping for years that the Baker family would get justice. "I remember being there that horrific time," Salters said in a statement. "Seeing this case now full circle, I appreciate the hard work of the detectives from then and now. Knowing that the evidence collected at the time contributed to the arrest today gives me tremendous pride in all the officers who worked this case over the years." Apart from the ACCPD and the Cold Case Unit, other agencies assisted in solving this 2-decade-old crime, including FBI Gainesville RA, FBI Athens RA1, Georgia State Patrol, and the GBI Division of Forensic Sciences. Meanwhile, Tara's memory continues to live on through her loved ones. In May of 2003, 2 years after her death, Tara was posthumously awarded her law degree from UGA's School of Law. Her family, friends, and classmates remember her as a beacon of kindness and inclusivity. She was someone who consistently fought for the less fortunate, and often led students to be involved in academic activities. Her family expressed sadness that she would never be able to practice law like she dreamed. Tara's family held a flower memorial service for her on January 20th, 2021, at Camp Memorial Park in Fayetteville, Georgia, where she was buried. The memorial ceremony was sponsored by Safe Campuses Now, an organization based in Athens designed to increase student awareness of crime and prevent campus criminal activity. Tara's tombstone bears an inscription of the scales of justice, as a symbol to honor her belief in justice. Following the arrest, Tara's sister, Meredith Schroeder, fondly remembered Tara as a champion for many people during her short life.
Tara's legacy. She was the champion for so many during her life, albeit short, and through this law, she would continue to help others.
The past few days have been filled with a host of convoluted emotions, as if it were 23 years ago. "We grieve," she said. Tara's mother, Virginia Baker, was just as emotional, showing her gratitude to the police and encouraging people in similar situations to not give up hope and to never stop praying. Unfortunately, Tara's father, Lindsay Baker, passed away in 2018 from a stroke, years before he could see his daughter get the justice she deserved. Though the arrest warmed many hearts, that day was still filled with grief and unanswered questions. Why did Faust kill an innocent 23-year-old university student trying to make the best of her life? Had Tara known him and willingly let him into her home? She was someone who always went out of the way to help others, so one can't help but wonder if Faust used this to lure her into his trap. Regardless, Faust will remain behind bars for a long time. We can only hope that he gives the reasons behind his horrifying actions. Even with Faust in custody, any additional tips can be helpful. They can be submitted anonymously by calling 1-800-597-TIPS 8477, dropping a message online at GBI's tip submission page, or through the See Something, Send Something mobile app.